right, thank you very much for staying with us and glad to have you back. Like Tosin said before the quick break, today promises to be amazing, and it's already amazing already. If you have been following the program, talk about the programs coming from Ondo and Abuja. It has been fantabulous, using the word of macaroni. All right, going to the interview segment today, we have Ayodele Ogunleye, who will be dissecting the issue on parenting, especially identifying the paradigm shift from the orthodox method and the 21st century. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mr.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. For
All right, now I think the topic today is a kind of not straightforward. I want you to dissect the concept of parenting the Zoomer. So what is it all about?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We noticed that parenting is beginning to become more complex in this 21st century.
Yeah.
And in order to get it right, because we're seeing a lot of challenges that parents are going through, we need to bring some of these concepts close to the doorsteps of the parents and those who are longing to become parents. Mm-hmm. And that's why we came up with parenting the Zoomers. The Zoomers are the Generation Z.
Generation Z.
We call them Gen Z. And if you have known in the workplace, in different places, you'll be hearing about Gen Z, Gen Z. That Z is the Zoomers.
Zoomers, okay.
So that's why we came up with parenting the Zoomers. And most of the people in the society, either the home front or in the offices or everywhere you find them, they seem to be a complex set of people.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to see how we can help parents with better approaches to deal with these people, organizations to develop better approaches to relate with these people. Who are this set of people? They are a different set of people that have come to exist in this generation, and not just exist, they have come to survive. And they're a very innovative set of people, very productive, very smart, and these are the technological set of people. They're born in the ages of technology. Like some of us, when we were born, we never knew what was a phone. You don't even know how to operate a phone.
Exactly.
And even till now, some of our parents have big phones and they don't even know the function.
Yeah.
But you see, a primary school boy who is just maybe 8 or 9 years old can pick your phone and run through different functions on the phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are different set of people, and we need to first understand them. Who are these people? Then we begin to figure out approaches to engage them, to connect with them, to bond with them, and bring out the best in them. You see, the risk or the danger here is just, if we don't get to know them properly, we might decide to shut them in, and we might decide to, stifle some of the potentials they have. And that's what we're trying to avoid. How do we make them productive? How do we help them fulfill their various purposes while still, getting the best of them?
Yeah.
So this is the essence of coming up with such a program like this, or an initiative like this, to help the society.
So talking about parenting the Zoomers, I really want you to break it down for the benefit of our viewers. All right, so can we also liken it to parenting the 21st century, or what does the Zoomer actually mean, the term Zoomer?
Yes, the Zoomers, they're the Generation Z. Children
like
born,
the Zoom generation.
Yes, the Zoomers, the Gen generation, you call them the Zoomers, you call them the Indomie generation, you call them they are just children born between the late 90s and the 2000s.
Okay, now I get it. So, nothing is, as in everything is changing, nothing is permanent. I want us to start from the basic, the foundation of parenting now. I want you to analyze or maybe highlight the sole responsibility of a father and a mother, because that's where parenting starts from.
Yes, good. For the sake of this initiative, we decided to focus. Parenting is broad.
Yeah.
And so if we want to talk about parenting, it has a lot to do. But our major focus is parenting teenagers and young adults. Yeah. That's teenagers between the ages of 13 to 19, and young adults between the ages of 20 to 25 or 26. So to make the work easy, I like to focus basically on the teenagers and young adults. There are other people who are focusing on children, child psychotherapists, and all those other people. So now for teenagers and young adults, basically, there are certain things that are expected of a father. There are certain things that are expected of a mother. In the African setting, in the orthodox pattern of parenting, it is expected that you know, the mother has the sole responsibility of parenting the children. But you know, in the 21st century, it no longer happens that way. The days where the father goes to provide just resources to keep the home, and the mother stays at home. But we have women who are even earning more than their husband.
That's true.
Exactly.
So if you expect, maybe you have a wife who is earning way more than you, and you expect her to sit at home or resign her job to keep the kids, while you, the father, want to maybe manage the little salary you have, it may not work. So now we need to find a synergy. We need to agree, find a consensus, think together, brainstorm together on what works for the family. Yeah. Because we have seen that most of the times when we don't have a good synergy between the father and the mother, the lapses are always seen in the children. And you know, there are certain things you can permit in the lives of your children when they are still below the age of 13. As much as complex as it could be. Yeah. But see, when they get to them, they become adolescents or teenagers, the problem is they begin to discover a lot of things about themselves. And this is the age where they ask so many questions. They're asking so many questions and they need answer. And if you don't give them answer, they will get answers somewhere. Yeah. And when they get answers elsewhere, they put you in trouble. Because they come and exhibit attributes, behaviors that are strange to you. The children come back home and you're seeing the way they are behaving. You don't know where they got it, to see their languages. You're asking yourself, how did it come about this? So in the 21st century, we are saying that parenting is a hard work. Yeah. It's a lot of work, and everyone who wants to be a parent should buckle up. Because if we don't get it very well in the home front, we put the society at risk. Yeah. And that's why we're coming up with this initiative for parents to, as a father, you need to wake up. As a mother, you need to also wake up. You need to find the synergy. You need to find an agreement. How do we want to? It's a topic that has to be talked about. How do we want to parent these teens? How do we want to parent these young adults? What are the approaches we need to engage in doing them? So that's why we're coming. In order not to, because one of the things I said in one of my programs was, if you don't work now, you would work later. Yeah. If you avoid it, if you dodge it now, if you dodge your responsibility as a
bounce
father,
back to you in the future.
Maybe because of work, maybe because of one reason or we find flimsy excuses for these things. But I've seen parents who are highly placed in various organizations. When there are issues, they have to resign to face those issues. Yeah. But why don't you solve it now when you have the time? And when it gets to that time, because by the age of 25, 26, there are basic things about life that they have actually discovered, and they have already set their focus. And when that focus is set, you can relax. All you need to do at this level is guide them. Yeah. Okay, don't go too far. Just take it easy here. But when you don't get it, you'll be the one pushing everything. Take, for example, you send your child to university and he fails to graduate after 6 years, a 4-year course. You'll be the one running to the university at this time, meeting the dean, meeting all necessary stakeholders to see how to get that child to school. Why do you need to wait for that when you can actually do the right thing before that time?
All right. Now, still talking about parenting, in as much as we are talking about the orthodox method, which I feel you are a part of, and
absolutely,
we cannot totally say that the method, did not birth good children at that time. True. But what do you think is actually wrong with the orthodox method, and why do you think it cannot fit into this present dispensation?
Thank you. You see, the orthodox parenting is absolutely very good, because I'm a product of it.
Obviously.
And I have parents who are educated, but they are not well enlightened. They grew up in a remote environment, and they still produce somebody like me who could relate with different environment. But you see, the truth is that the age in which we were born, we had less information. Do you understand? I've never argued with my dad growing up. If my dad lies to me, if he tells me this is what he knows about, I ask him about it. I swallow it, even if it's wrong. But now you're talking to your son, he picks up his phone and said, "Daddy, what you said,
it's not on Google."
It's not on Google. And you look at your child like, back in our days, they say you don't tell an adult that he's telling a lie.
Exactly. But now?
Because they can validate many of the things you are telling them.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it helped us. It worked for us. We couldn't validate those things. We believed them. And we even told some of our friends when we got to school that this was what our parents told. Even when they were not, we couldn't validate them. So, but now, because of the access to global information, we need to wake up. We need to step up. we are not saying that everything that was done in the Orthodox parenting
It's totally bad.
It's totally bad. No, it's not totally bad. But what we are trying to say now is that parents have to be ahead.
Follow the trend of the evolving nature of the society.
Nature.
Yeah.
You can't just sleep and want to parent your children like your father or your parents parented you. It may not work. And if it doesn't work, and because of the ego we have as parents, the problem is that we try to enforce it on them. I am your father, I'm paying your school fees, I'm feeding you, so you have to do what I want you to do. And when he sees that what you want him to do is actually not, take for example, you want a child to go and study a course in the university, and he's done his research, maybe he wants to study computer science and he's doing coding. I say, because I'm a medical doctor, you must be a medical doctor. And he checks your salary for a whole year and tells you that you just have the name as a medical doctor. If I do coding and I do this for the next 1 week, I know how much I'm going to get. And you're saying, no, there's nothing in, and because, so we need to really get to know these people. What exists in this generation? What exists in the contemporary
Where lies
time?
their interest?
What's their interest? How do we help them to really, so it's not just about us. Back then, it was about our parents.
Yes.
Did you get it? It was about our parents. But now, it's no longer about us. Because the world in which we were raised no longer exists. So we need to look at what exactly exists in this world. How do we help them to fit in? Some of us read courses in universities that we are not making use of.
Exactly.
That's very true.
Because our parents wanted us to read them. So why would you waste their time? Why would you waste their talent? Why would you even waste your own resources? So that's exactly what we're talking about.
Now, talking about the Orthodox style of parenting and the modern time, there is usually this fear in the heart of every child. That I'm talking about the Orthodox style of parenting now. That when your parents or your father is talking to you, you dare not look up, as in look directly into their eyes.
Yes.
But nowadays we don't have such anymore. So should we say is the society or the exposure to digital world has caused it, or what?
You're number one. You rightly said it. The exposure. The exposure this set of people have is totally different from what we had. Now, they watch cartoons, they watch programs, I remember I was already a teenager before I started seeing CNN or some of this DSTV, and because of the coverage, there's some places that you don't even have some of these cable networks all around. So you have specific times to watch some special programs. Maybe your father will only sit on NTA, some of us, and you dare not change that channel.
You dare not.
But they are watching films, they are seeing how their peers relate in other societies. And because of this cross-cultural relationship, they are not there. Sometimes you hear them speak some languages, and you ask yourself, where did he pick it from? Sometimes maybe from the cartoon, maybe from the film he's watching. You see some of their mannerisms. He's act and say, whatever. And you're like, where did you get that one from? Maybe one of the films he's watching, he's seen a fellow teenager acting that same way to his or her parents. And so it was like, okay, this is how they are doing in the US. And we also have models. Some of these social medias, they go through it, they see what some of these models do.
Yeah.
So they imbibe some of these behaviors subconsciously. And so they begin to act them. And sometimes you don't even know that this is what is happening. So in the Orthodox style, another reason, let me cite for example, we don't have that luxury of time back then to focus or glue our eyes even to technology.
Yeah.
Was
technology even available?
So we had enough time to relate with peers. Moonlight stories, all those. You relate with families, you go and spend your holiday with uncles, and go around places. But now, everybody to himself, to your tent, whole Israel. Everybody is keeping to himself, you staying at home. Some of them don't even want to go because they already have all the things they need to be comfortable on their own. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So because of that, community parenting was very useful back then in our days.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time I did something and one of my mom's friend saw me and flogged me out and said, tell your mom that I flog you when you get home. I dare not tell my mother because if I did that, I'm in trouble. But you see, if you try that with a child now, the mother will come for you.
Exactly.
So community parenting is no longer in
place
so now, because some of these things that we have actually put, those structures that helped us in the Orthodox times no longer exists. A child goes to school from sometimes from 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, teenagers, that parents who has children in secondary schools, and because they need to get to work on time, they dress them up, wake them up as early as 4 o'clock in the morning, and they are dropping them in school even before resumption time. You wait here when your fellow colleagues or peers come, join them and get into the assembly. I need to go and work. I'm working because of you. I need to make money to keep you in school. And sometimes these parents might not even come back till maybe 10 p.m. in the night. And so because of that, you have structured nannies, you have structured different places, their foods where they need to stay. But back then, we come back from school, maybe by 2 o'clock or by 1 o'clock, you have time to go and play football on the field.
Yeah.
You have time to run around. You know, those things helped us. But now these structures are no longer in place. Now, what do we do to still effectively deliver the values? That's these expected values. This is why we're trying to say, look, this thing no longer exists. We need to figure out better approaches to still retaining these values, even in the society.
So what are the approaches now? You know, you talked about children watching cartoon and adopting either their accent, their style, the way they relate. So now looking at this generation, for it not to get worse, because parenting now is hard work, as you said earlier, it's hard work. So what do you think can be done to actually inculcate good morals in our children now?
Before we talk about the morals, you see, like there was a series I did on parenting, and we highlighted some specific things that can help you to guide these children. Number one, we talked about proactive parenting. Proactive parenting, you know, we have reactive parents, we have proactive parents. Proactive parents, or let me talk about reactive parents, for example. For example, you're so careless as a parent, you leave your child to go to school, and maybe he has a peers, one of his peers or her peers in school, who is disturbing him or her, threatening or bullying. Let me use the word bullying. And he comes back home. He wants to talk to you. He wants to relay this with you, but because you're so busy,
you didn't give attention.
You didn't give attention. And maybe one day they just call you from school and say, somebody beats your son and maybe he has a cut. And you just run back like, hey, I'm going to kill this boy. Who is this person? Who is his parents? You're trying to react to something that has happened. But if you're proactive enough, sometimes a child comes back from school, you're looking at the dress and asking, come, what is happening to your dress? Who tore your clothes? This button was not like this when you... Now, he gives you an information. I have a guy in school who is always... You go to the principal and say, look, there's a guy in this school, troubling. You are being proactive. You are trying to salvage the situation before it happens.
Preventing.
Yes, before it happens. But most of the parents we have now, they allow everything to sleep. Only when the thing happens. Some parents attribute it to the devil. They will tell you.
In Yoruba, they'll say, and
some of them will even take these children to pastors or imams for deliverance. Not understanding that they have left some works at home to be done. So for example, these things are not just things that you can put in the class and say, okay, this is what you are going to be doing. It's an attitude you imbibe in yourself. And this attitude helps you to build relationship. So you're beginning to figure, for example, a child is going to the university, you're beginning to help him figure out, okay, what do you do with this course when you finish? You're not allowing him to just get into the university, finish the course, and you're now beginning to look for a job and say, look, this course you even read, you are planning his CGPA from 100 level. So what do we do with you? You know, if you finish with second class lower, there is no job in this society. So how do we better get it? How do we get a better grade? So you're beginning to... Guidance. You're giving them a lot of time. We talked about accessibility. We talked about synergy. We talked about feedback. We talked about negotiation skill. These are skills that are... Some of our parents, you dare not try to... When they say A, you don't have multiple choice. You can't negotiate.
It's a problem.
But now you're trying to bring them into your own world as much as you're trying to engage yourself or get involved in their world. Do you get? So these are some of the things we're trying to put together and let parents know that it's not just, there's no perfect approach to parenting. If anybody tells you this is the hard and fast rule of parenting, is a lie.
Yeah.
But when we try some of these approaches, we get feedbacks. Then our feedbacks gives us better ways to handle it next time. Now you're looking at, okay, this is the feedback I got. Maybe this thing is not working.
Yeah,
Can we try some other things? And as you're trying that, you're beginning to exercise, all these approaches and see, okay, it's as if this one worked. We talked about learning to take a breath, for example. And the aspect of learning to take a breath is managing your emotions. Yeah. Sometimes a child does something small. The punishment you're giving to that child is like you're punishing a murderer. Yeah. And the child is looking at, what exactly did I do? I broke a plate, for example. And you are almost starving that child because you have broken this plate. But if you were the one that broke such a plate, what would you have done? Yeah. So we are trying to talk about learning to take a breath, managing your emotions, because some parents have also killed their children. They've damaged their children psychologically or emotionally because they've not been able to manage their emotions.
Get them traumatized.
Yes, because they've not been able to manage their emotions. So we're talking about some of putting all these things together and saying, look, these things could help you better. It could help you to bond with these children. For example, if a child does something, or I heard anything about my child, maybe I went to the school and I got an information that my child did this or that, I'm not supposed to act or react immediately. Yeah. I'm supposed to take it in, get back home, then process some of those things, make my own findings, not jumping into conclusions. That's what affects most of the teenagers. Your child comes to you and says, Mom, there was this guy in my class, so he's proposing to me, he's asking me out, and the next is like, you are a prostitute. How can you be at your age? You're not getting, and the moment she hears that, she's looking at, for real, why should I tell her the next time?
Exactly.
Do you get it? So,
yeah. But your child will not confide in you.
We're not confiding in you. So we're putting together a lot of approaches, which some of those videos are already out on some of our channels. You can see them.
All right. Now, before you go further, I would like to take you back to the social media aspect, looking at the social media and the electronic gadgets and innovations that are forthcoming. I think one of my friends actually learned about 3 different languages, foreign languages, from having to get acquainted with the social media and electronic devices. But if you look at it from the other side, I would always love to balance the 2 equations. We have also seen a huge number of children that have also learned things that are detrimental to their well-being from same social media platform. Do you think it will be necessary for parents to get acquainted with all these gadgets rather than clapping down on their children from using them?
Thank you. You see, what you're talking about here is just about the proactive parenting.
Yeah, following the trends. It's
about the proactive parenting. As a proactive parent, if I want to buy a phone for my child, to an extent, I should be able to get to know about some of these functions of this phone. In fact, what some of these children do now is that they block you from their status. For example, you have some of them who have their status and their parents don't even know. Yeah. And so sometimes some parents come to you and tell you, my child can never do anything. And sometimes you see them dressed nudely, so provocatively. I said, never, my child can't do that. But some of his friends will just look at you and say, she doesn't know what is happening. So what am I trying to say in essence? Apart from knowing, there is this atmosphere you build that makes your children easily assess you.
Yeah, confide in you.
You see, sometimes it's not as if they don't want to talk. It's not as if they don't want to. You see, before you see any teenager or young adult exhibiting a behavior, they must have processed it. They must have struggled with it. And maybe when they don't get enough answers, they decide to take actions into their hands or laws into their hands and do whatever they want to do. But most of the times, if you're accessible enough as a parent, that's why we're saying we're looking at teenagers and young adults. Yeah. The earlier you get involved in their lives, the easier it is for you. It is very, very easy for them to come to you and tell you, Mom, there was this site my friend gave me. What is it about this site? Because they want to know. You don't see any teenager or young adult exhibit a behavior subconsciously. No, it has taken time. So maybe they have been trying to ask questions and nobody's answering them, and they have feedbacks from their friends or peers who could answer those questions the way they choose to answer those questions. And so they decide to follow through what some of these things. So the first thing is get yourself involved in their lives.
Yeah, be their friends, be their best friends.
They can have. I was in one of the episodes we're shooting, and a father said, "My daughter knows my password. She uses my phone to relate with her friends." And so, if such a daughter, for instance, is so free enough to use your phone, we are not saying in all cases, there are exceptions in all cases, but to a large extent, that level, even if she has her own phone, there will be a lot of restrictions. Because even if you say, well, let me have you have been using my phone, let me have your phone and see what's happening on your phone too. So build this relationship. That's one thing, we are bonding. When there's bonding there, you can get involved in each other's life or one another's life, as it may be.
Yeah.
And the moment that happens, managing some of these issues become less difficult. For that your friend who has learned that if, for instance, the parents are such parents that do not like to see children always on these gadgets, it can frustrate him. You're always on your phone 24/7. What are you doing on those phones? What are you doing with, I'm going to seize your phone.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
I get the point.
And also, if you're such a parent too who is not sensitive enough, you can also indulge your children. Some of them are watching pornography on the phone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're watching doing some terrible things on the phone, and you don't even know. So you don't just have to be proactive. Ensure that you're giving a lot of access, a lot of time, a lot of attention. Make them your priority.
Yeah.
See, you make money. It's good to make money. But if you make money and these children are coming back home, or you're bringing the money back home to a child who had been locked up in one of the cells because of taking hard drugs, what essence is that money?
All right. For the sake of time, I have this burning question already. Are there stages that things get out of hand that we can't possibly redress it again? Like probably a child that is age 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you were unable to, impart the necessary morals on that child. Are there stages that it gets to that you cannot, rectify the issues again?
There is no age in which you cannot rectify issues.
Okay.
But what I would say is that it becomes more difficult. It becomes more difficult as they grow older. So take for instance, if you're parenting children now, from the ages of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, there are things they're observing. As much as you think they don't know anything, there are things they're observing. You tell your little boy, don't take that thing. I'm telling you no. And he says, Daddy, don't say no. You're looking at it like, what's Daddy, please say yes. And so if you're so lenient enough, you give it to that child, it comes to a point where it becomes an habit.
I know Daddy will say yes, definitely.
Do you get it? So even when you don't ask him to take it, he will take it and says, my daddy will. When I tell him to say yes, he will always say yes. And if he grows into understanding that there's a day, one particular day, maybe when he becomes a teenager or something, like he can take your car, drive it out, and maybe bash the car and damage the car because you've given him that access to always have his way. So what we are saying is, look, get it early. Get into this work early. Start it as early as possible. From when they are a child, when they are getting into teenage age. At this level, what happens is that, especially to the age of that 18, 19, their hearts are malleable. When you hear about any young adult or teenager, or teenagers basically, committing any crime, before such a child can commit a crime, something must have gone bad. And even at that, sometimes there was an instance where we had to take some teenagers to the police station. We thought they were so hard. If you see their faces and everything, but when they got to the police station, they broke down. All of them started crying. I said, I thought you guys were big boys. We didn't torture them. We didn't. That was just a shock therapy we gave to them. When they get to 22, 23, 24, it becomes more difficult
to handle.
Now, for example, if I'm a rich parent, there are several things I can use to stop my teenager from driving. I can tell him, you are not up to 18, so you can't get a driver's license.
Yes.
And so until you get a driver's license, you can't touch that car. He might agree with you. But the day he turns 19 or 18, he tells you that now I'm 18.
Yeah, adults.
So you begin to lose some parental rights in this aspect of the country setting that we're talking about Nigeria, but across the country or across the world, there are still certain ages also. Maybe some is 16 years, some countries maybe 17, 18 years or thereabout. So, but when they grow older, you lose some parental rights. For example, if you're feeding a child, you're paying his school fees, you still have a right.
Yeah.
But the day he begins to work, he will tell you that I don't need your money. And so your level of the level at which you can control him, the scope of control declines. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. Before the scope of control declines, before they begin to leave your roof, try as much as possible to put all the values,
get cordial
everything you can. Because the moment they leave, and you know, this is the age in which they are looking for freedom.
Exactly.
And the moment they get that freedom,
they're always looking forward to it.
So that's what I would say about that question. I wouldn't say that there is no age, because by one way or the other, you know, there's still, society has a way of going. Maybe they get to a friend who would actually change them, or but the pains, emotional, psychological trauma on you as the parents, I wouldn't want you to go through that.
All right. So talking about, to actually wrap it up now, talking about bonding, and you know, there's some children that has been taught good morals from home before going to tertiary, to higher institution, and you find that when they eventually get there, everything changes about them. You see that there are some children that normally they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do all sort of criminal acts. But as soon as they get to school, you just discover that everything changes about them. So should we say that the morals and everything that they've been taught at home is not enough, or is it that they are using enforcement, as an enforcement on them, that makes them change as soon as they get to school? So what actually went wrong, and what can be done?
Thank you. You see, parenting is a lifelong process. Yeah. Until you die as a parent, you are still parenting.
Yes, it's a continuous
I watched something yesterday on social media about a 93-year-old man who was arrested for traffic offenses. I think it was in the US. And when he sat before the judge said, "Why were you overspeeding?" He said, "My lord, I was driving to get blood for my son."
I think I've seen
it. He said, "How old is that son?" I think the son was 63.
Yes.
63 years.
Yes. Wow.
And the judge had to acquaint that man and tell him to go. So parenting is a lifelong. But what's important here is that there is no finish line to parenting. That's an error. See, that's why you see some parents when they tell you, "Look, I've taught my children well, and so nothing can happen." It's a lie. That's also in proactive parenting. We talked about this because of the time. You see, even when you have done all, still keep yourself active. Just be on your guard. Anything can happen. I was talking to a parent, and he said, the first time my daughter ate Igbo Indian hemp, this was a daughter whom he had raised well. But how did it happen? The daughter went to visit one of her friends in the hostel, and the friend used this thing to cook food, and they all ate it. So in such a situation like that, we do blame the parents for that. But you know, he said the first thing she did was she called him and said that, "I don't know what's happening to me, but I had eaten the food before my friend told me, and now psychologically it's as if I'm running mad." And the father said immediately he heard that, he just had to calm her down and tell her the first things to do, or the things to do, to get that. So in such a situation, they are interacting with different environments. And you cannot say you have done enough, because even what you have told them, when they get out, they want to validate it. They meet with other peers who are from other homes. And they share ideas. They relate all these things together, and they're beginning to say, which of these things is better? This one you people are doing at home, the way your parents are relating with people at home, and the one it's as if this your own is better.
Experimentation.
Do you get it? And that's why that bonding is important, because you need feedbacks. So with effective feedbacks, it will inform you and say, okay, this is what this child is doing. How do we deal with this one? You begin to brainstorm with your husband or your wife and begin to think, okay, can we get to that desk? Can we meet some of these their friends? Can we have a party for these their friends? Can we, you begin to try as much as possible to vary circumstances, vary approaches, and see the one that can help bring you. All you're trying to do as a parent is not to enforce your life on them.
No.
It's to bring them closer to yourself so that you can, it will be a part of their world.
Whenever they find themselves in another situation.
Get into their world. Because even if you want to discipline them, the essence of your discipline is not to punish them. It's to effect a positive change. So that's why if you are not involved in their world, you will be cut out totally.
Yeah.
So in such a situation like that, what I would encourage parents to do is you can't go to bed as a parent until you are beginning to get to a point where these children have actually gotten it well. And you can see that, okay, this guy is beginning to help others to also find their own purposes, live a better life at that level.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I really appreciate your presence.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Definitely, this is just the beginning. We'll definitely have a part 2 of this because the topic is so broad that I have thousands of questions lined up here, but for the sake of time, I cannot just finish it. All right, that was Ayodele, a young adult psychotherapist here in Lagos, Nigeria, dissecting the concept of parenting. You've heard from him that we must be able to merge and connect the orthodox method and the current dispensation in order to actually parent the 21st century child. Thank you very much for your time once again for being a part of the program. We'll just take a very quick break, and when we come back, the show continues.